Welcome to the first video by Deadly Dossiers, tackling the darkest chapters of true crime, one case at a time. First, let us begin by asking the question, did you know that the United Kingdom has been home to almost 200 documented serial killers? A serial killer is classified as an individual who's committed 3 or more murders, usually with a significant period of time between each. But these people aren't characters from a chilling thriller novel. They're real, they're among us, and their stories are as fascinating as they are horrifying. Join me as we delve into the dark world of some of the UK's most infamous killers. We begin with an infamous pair of serial killers who committed heinous crimes that shook the nation. Ian Brady, a name that sends shivers down the spines of anyone familiar with the dark annals of British crime history. Brady, a stocky Scot with penetrating eyes, was a man whose deeds were so vile, so utterly devoid of humanity, they led to him being referred to by the British tabloid press as the most hated man in Britain. Born into a life of hardship, Brady's descent into darkness was a slow one, marked by petty crimes that steadily escalated into something far more sinister. His criminal career reached its horrific zenith in the early to mid-60s when he and his equally infamous partner, Myra Hindley, embarked on a killing spree that would forever be known as the Moors Murders. The pair's victims were children and teenagers, innocent souls who were lured into their clutches with promises of help or company. Once in their grasp, these youngsters were subjected to unspeakable horrors. Brutally murdered and buried on the desolate moorlands outside Manchester, their remains were a grim testament to the duo's monstrous acts. Brady and Hindley's modus operandi was one of cold, calculated cruelty. Their crimes were marked by a distinctive lack of remorse, a chilling indifference that only served to underscore the depth of their depravity. They used recordings and photographs of their horrific acts as trophies, a macabre collection that would eventually lead to their downfall. In the end, it was their own arrogance and lack of empathy that led to their capture. Discovered by the police in their home, surrounded by their trophies of horror, they were arrested and subsequently convicted for their crimes. Brady was sentenced to life imprisonment, a sentence he would serve until his death in 2017. Hindley died at the age of 60, 15 years earlier in 2002. A heartless pair, these monstrous actions continue to haunt the collective memory of the British public. Their crimes, marked by their sheer brutality and cold indifference, are a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the human soul. Brady and Hindley's monstrous actions left a permanent scar on the face of the UK. Next on our list is Peter Sutcliffe, a name that sends shivers down the spine of anyone familiar with his reign of terror. Known as the Yorkshire Ripper, Sutcliffe perpetrated a series of horrific acts that shook the United Kingdom to its core. A former lorry driver, he was responsible for the brutal murders of 13 women and the attempted murder of 7 others in the regions of West Yorkshire and Manchester. His reign of terror spanned from 1975 to 1980. Sutcliffe was no ordinary criminal. His approach to murder was chillingly unique. He often used tools such as hammers and screwdrivers to carry out his attacks, striking his victims from behind before mutilating them. His targets were primarily women involved in prostitution, driven by an irrational hatred and a self-appointed mission to cleanse the streets. His crimes were not only horrific, but also perplexing. Despite a massive manhunt and the involvement of over 200 officers, Sutcliffe managed to evade capture for 5 years. This was partly due to his cunning ability to blend into society, appearing as nothing more than an ordinary man leading an ordinary life. However, his ability to manipulate his outward appearance did not fool anyone. His wife Sonia later revealed that she had suspected something was amiss, but could never pinpoint exactly what it was. This goes to show that often the face of evil is not as recognisable as we'd like to believe. The Yorkshire Ripper's reign was finally brought to an end in 1981, when he was pulled over for a routine traffic stop. The police officer noticed his number plates were false, leading to his arrest and subsequent trial. Sutcliffe was found guilty and sentenced to 20 life terms, a punishment that pales in comparison to the devastation he left in his wake. Sutcliffe's reign of terror ended with his capture in 1981, but his memory continues to haunt the UK. Even now, over 4 decades later, the name Peter Sutcliffe serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the hearts of an ordinary man. Few names in British crime history are as chilling as Fred and Rose West. Their tale is one of unimaginable horror, their deeds casting a long and dark shadow over the quaint English town of Gloucester. Fred West was born in 1941 and came from a troubled background. He had a history of petty crime before meeting Rosemary Letts in 1969. Rose, a teenager at the time, was already showing signs of violent tendencies. Together, they would go on to commit a series of murders that would stun the nation. Their home at 25 Cromwell Street, later dubbed the House of Horrors, was the grim stage for these heinous acts. It was here that they lured, tortured and killed at least 12 young women and girls, including their own daughter, Heather. Their victims were often vulnerable individuals, easy prey for the West's manipulative and predatory ways. Fred was the mastermind, a man whose charm and seeming normality hid a deeply depraved mind. He was known for his ability to manipulate, to make the vulnerable feel safe, only to betray that trust in the most horrific way. Rose, however, was no mere accomplice. She was an active participant, equally sadistic and cruel. She was known for her violent temper and sexual sadism. In fact, some of their victims were young women that Rose had brought into their home under the guise of nannying their children. Their reign of terror came to an end in 1994 when police, acting on a tip-off about Heather's disappearance, began to excavate the garden at Cromwell Street. What they found was a horror show of human remains. The Wests were arrested, and the full extent of their crimes began to unfold. Fred took his own life in prison before he could stand trial. Rose, however, was convicted of 10 murders and remains behind bars to this day. The West's despicable crimes stand as a gruesome reminder of the evil that can lurk in the most ordinary places. Our journey through the dark world of the UK's serial killers has been chilling, to say the least. These disturbing tales are not meant to incite fear, but to remind us all of the grim realities of crime, a stark reminder of humanity's capacity for darkness. We began with the Moors murderers, whose reign of terror held a city captive with fear. Then we delved into the detestable acts committed by the Yorkshire Ripper, a name that still echoes with dread in the hearts of many. Lastly, we explored the unthinkable atrocities of Fred and Rose West, a couple whose monstrous deeds continue to haunt the United Kingdom. Reflecting on these cases isn't just about revisiting the past, it's about learning, understanding and preventing such acts from recurring. Each story holds valuable lessons about the importance of vigilance, community and the power of our collective voice. In the comments below, share your thoughts on these cases. What stood out for you? Do you remember them being reported in the news at the time? And as we leave these dark tales behind, remember, awareness and understanding are our best weapons against such horrors. Like and subscribe for similar content in the future. Stay vigilant and stay safe.